was standing in front of my refrigerator, and you know how the little reset button is on the refrigerator. So I looked at the reset button, and it jumped out at me. And I was like, and I heard the words, and I know it was God. Reset, reevaluate everything so everything thrives. And so the R, the E, and I'm like, I've never heard nobody say that. So I kind of wrote it down. And about maybe a year, not that long after, within a year or maybe a little over a year, like I literally left everything that I had known for like 17 years. Because survival mode says, oh, I gotta hurry and do this, I gotta do this. But you know, when you're thriving, it's like I'm intentional. Like I'm specifically making sure that I'm not just doing anything just cause.
Author, a reset coach, and an educator. Some people might know her, but I know her as Miss Jakeithia. How are you?
I'm fine, Caitlin. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. So our topic is mainly about resetting. I know you have had a book about resetting, but before we get into that, like I want to talk about like your background. Like how did you grow up? Were you always creative, confident in your creativeness when you were growing up?
Okay, so cool. I grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana. I was actually pretty shy growing up, which people were like, "What?" Yeah, I was shy growing up. I was smart. Um, so I was always kind of like a nerdy but cool girl. Um, and yeah, I sang in like the choir and that type of thing. Never really had a lot of friends, just had like like a close circle, which I still do it like this. I wasn't always creative, but I think I always had a creative brain. Never thought that I would be an author because I have a STEM background. So I have a physics degree from the Grambling State University. And so with a minor in chemistry, so I never thought that I would be an author. So the creativity that now that I look back at it, it was there, but um, I don't know. I just didn't tap into it really, really good until I really understood until I got older. So that kind of thing.
And you mentioned you were shy. Like, what was it that broke off that shyness, or what made you like broke out of your shell?
I think I began to be around people who were more extroverted. Um, and then I began to be around, like, I think when I became a Christian, because I knew that I needed to share my faith. I knew that I needed to, encourage, like I'm a big encourager. Like people always call me. I go to the grocery store and the lady who's checking me out, they just start talking to me about, and so people would just walk up to me like, "Hi, how you doing?" Like, "I'm fine," and they just have a conversation. So I had to get out of my shell because people would always say that, "You're so easy to talk to," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I remember a long time ago, your mama told me that too. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought about that, but yeah, I think that's what had me to get out my shell. And I think the singing also had me to get out of my shell because I had to sing like for like competition. So I had to like be confident and get out of my shell so that I won't, like not be confident. And then, because I'm a perfectionist. So if I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna get superior, right? I'm gonna do my best and it's gonna sound good and I'm gonna do all that kind of stuff. So that's what I really believe got me out of my shell.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that topic because, like, I wanted to know, like, what's the advice for, like, especially young Christians who feel like they're a leader, but they don't know how to get out of that spirit of fear or just that shyness.
So you have to really pray because fear can really cripple you. And there's a scripture that says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but has given us love, power, and a sound mind. So everything comes from prayer, right? So like you have to say, God, I really need you to help me to get out of my shell from the spirit of fear. And that too, that God called us to share our faith. That's part of something that He tells us to do. He tells us to go and make disciples. He tells us to be a light, be the salt. And so We can't do that if we're never like sharing our faith. And then also, I think the third thing is that everybody, you have to know how to do it right. Everybody is not going to accept who you are, who you represent, but they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting Christ, which is very sad.
Yeah.
And so I learned not to preach Jesus, 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 Jesus around people. But I think the biggest thing is to share my testimony. So if somebody's talking about something that I've gone through, I just share it and I just tell them how God helped me through. And so nobody can say no to a testimony, right? So it doesn't always be like, hey, do you know Jesus? It doesn't have to always be, do you know Jesus? It can be something where I share my faith because somebody is going through the same thing. Because remember, people always come to me and they just dump on me. So 9 times, 8 times out of 10, it's been something that I've been through. And I'd be like, oh, and I just share it. And sometimes you just be that person. You just be kind, you be nice, you be sweet. When, people talking about people, you don't talk about, people begin to see your fruit and then they'll know. And even from that, they'll be like, oh, and then you let God do the work.
So like there's power even if you don't say anything in like specific, yeah.
You just be who you are. You be who you are. You be confident in who you are. And sometimes I don't say anything. But I just be me. I'm kind. I'm not laughing at your jokes. I'm not, I'm like, oh, that ain't cool. Or, you know what I'm saying? And just be me. And they be like, and they know, and they respect it. And then people will be around me. And even if they curse, I don't have to say nothing. They'll just be like, ooh, because now they know who I am. They know who I represent. And I don't even have to say, don't cuss. And I don't tell people don't cuss because you grown, right? But I mean, if it's a close friend of mine, they know better. Everybody else, and I don't have many close friends that curse because all my friends are Christians. That's another thing that helps you too, to be around people who are like-minded like you.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely helps. And I wanted to know, like, before we get into the book, like, what did resetting look like for you before you had the idea to be like a reset coach personally?
Girl, let me tell you, I actually like what I tell people all the time. I literally walk through these experiences. Like I literally walk through them, and I literally write the experience. And so I'll tell you how the reset came about. And when I look back over my life, I'm like, I've always gone through little resets and you just learn, you pay attention. So, oh God, probably like, I don't know, it's been a while, maybe like 2011. I was standing in front of my refrigerator and you know how the little reset button is on the refrigerator. So I looked at the reset button and it jumped out at me. And I was like, and I heard the words, and I know it was God, reset, reevaluate everything so everything thrives. And so the R, the E, and I'm like, I've never heard nobody say that. So I kind of wrote it down. And about maybe a year, not that long after, within a year or maybe a little over a year, like I literally left everything that I had known for like 17 years, left my church, left my job, left my home, left the place I had been living. And so I literally went through a reset.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I left like everything. Left the job, closed the business, sold the house. I mean, like everything, just left and moved back to my hometown of Lafayette, because at the time I was living in North Louisiana. So yeah, so I literally go through these resets. I didn't write the book until COVID. So when COVID hit, and I'm an educator, so we walked out the building March 13th, 2020, never forget it. And I just thought, it was like, oh, we'll be back in a few weeks. And I was thinking like, something in my spirit was like, mm-mm. And so when I walked out the building, God had been dealing with me about writing a book. And I was like, ain't no author. I'm a science girl. I'm a math girl. But what's a lot of times we limit ourselves when God gives us ideas. And if you're a creative, and you're a visionary, that is like the enemy to being creative. Because you have to really you'll think of the stuff that you be like, I ain't never heard nobody say that. And then you're scared because you be like, what if everybody rejects it? Oh well. it's not for everybody. One, it's for certain people, right? So yeah, that's where the reset came from. And I can tell you, I've probably been through like maybe two or three other major ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But they're not bad if you know how to navigate through them. They're not bad. They're actually very exciting. For me, they are. I don't know. Everybody's different, but I guess because that's my thing now, and I've learned to accept and I've learned to understand that that's the message that I carry. And I also understand that I am the messenger of the reset. So I'm like, I just be ready. Okay. I'm always, people like, I'm like, baby, you don't understand my life, Yeah. I don't be
Yeah.
yeah.
Coming from a STEM background, like how was it when you felt like you were being called to be like an author, like dealing with words and stuff? Like what were the first challenges you remember experiencing?
I don't know what to write. I don't know where to write it. I don't know how to write it. So I actually hired a book coach to help me. Um, and the way that I am, like the way that I write, um, I'll sit down and it'll just come flooding. And I may just sit down and write like 20 pages all in one setting. So I had to hire a book coach who did like the editing and the formatting and the publishing and stuff for me. So sometimes in the beginnings, you do need help. You get help from people, right? That'll help you in your journey. And it's okay because I'm not an English teacher. I'm not dumb as far as English is concerned, but it's my first time writing a book. So I just had to get help. You just get help. Get people who have done it before that you can trust. And even if you have to pay a little bit of money. Because even in that first book, I fired her at the end. Because she just didn't do me right. Anyway, because that happens in the reset. You learn, you always learn and you get wisdom. You get wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely helps me out because I'm like, you didn't crossed over to the writing side because that's what I do. And my first thing is like, I don't know what to write, or I just have like writer's block and stuff. So I wanted to know how that you've been through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think an outline always helps. And then you outline like what your chapters is gonna be. And then you write. And then sometimes just write. Sometimes you just write and just write whatever. Do you journal? If you like, journaling has helped me because I journal. And so when I was writing my book, I pulled a bunch of stuff from my journal about resetting. And I had begun to put like things about reset like on Facebook and Instagram. So I took a whole bunch of those quotes and I wrote more about it. Right. Like I re-quoted, I shared one today and it said, um, it doesn't make sense until you're out of it. Don't quit. Because he'd be like, I don't understand this. This don't make sense. I quit. Well, you're in the transition. So I posted that today. So then that was a topic in my book. And I put that and I just wrote more about it and then share my experience about, it doesn't always make sense when you're in it. But when you come out of it, you're like, oh, that was the lesson I learned. Oh, I learned a lot about myself. Oh, I learned a lot about God. Oh, I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about this. And so it's all about the life experiences. And so that's what helped me as well.
Yeah, and because I deal with perfectionism too, so coming from that, like with writing, I had to learn like everything you write is not going to be like the final draft, even if it's a rough draft, it's not going to be perfect all the time. And I think that's what I've been struggling with a little bit, like trying to write something that it has to be exactly what it's supposed to be, when you can always go back and fix it.
Yep, because I'll write something and like a week later I'll come back and I'm like, oh, because life happened the last week. And so now I have more experience. I mean, it's real.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
wanted to get into like the reset, and you said it stands for reevaluating everything so that everything thrives.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you personally?
Oh, so, there's so many things in our lives that I say this to people, everything is not important, right? And everything is not important at the same time. So, for instance, in 2021, my life became, it was a year. It was rough, right? So in the beginning of the year, I had like this big family issue. And then like in February, one of my friends passed away. And then in June, one of my students got shot by one of my former students. And then later on, like it was just like back to back to back to back stuff. And so in the reset, what that meant to me is that I have to prioritize. So at that moment, I had to begin to intentionally prioritize my mental health. I went to therapy, started going to therapy. On Wednesdays, I would have a rest day. Like I would come home from work, put my phone on D&D. I wouldn't go on social media. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I would just, right? So that's what resetting is to me, where I'm looking at my life and I'm having at least one priority that I am intentionally super focused on. So for 2021, my super focus and my intentionality was my mental health. And anything that destroyed my peace, sorry, we're gonna do it, draw a boundary, we're gonna keep it moving. Right. And so now that I have that under wraps, then you start to look at other areas of your life, like your finances or your eating habits or your health. And it doesn't always have to be when it's bad. It could just be like, I need to get a grip on this. I'm spending too much money. Or I need to, so you just begin to um always have something that's prioritized and then understand when the shift happens. And when I say that, that means that, okay, now that I have my mental health underlying, it becomes a part of me, it becomes a part of my routine, it becomes a part of my everyday life. So now what else do I need to work on? And sometimes you have a reset that is thrown at you where you're not, you're just living life and then boom, I don't know. Like, I'm living life last June and I knew that my dad was, eventually going to pass, but my dad passed in June. So now I have to go back to intentionally taking care of Jakeithia as far as my mental health. But the good thing about it is I had already put a lot of things in place because I had already prioritized my mental health before, right? So I got back into therapy. I learned, I processed, I took care of me. Y'all do what y'all want. Okay, I'm important right now. Like, and I had to be just not selfish, but I had to just be intentional about taking care of myself. So that's what the reset is, because it's pivots, it's shifts, it's knowing that when you're in the transition is not forever. The transition is the in between. You're going to eventually come out, but if you're not being intentional about it, you may stay in that transition for a long time when you don't need to.
Yeah.
So that's what resetting is to me. It's reevaluating. You look at what's going on in your life, but you go back again and say, let me look at this. Let me look at my finances. Let me look at the relationships. Look at the kind of friendships I have. Let me look at my relationship with God. Am I really spending enough time with Him, or I'm just going to church on Sunday? Like, am I reading the Bible every day? Am I you start to just, and I don't, and it's not, I tell people, if you can't do three, I wouldn't do no more than three. Prioritize three things. And if that's too much, you start with at least one, right? And you can have three. You don't have to do all three at the same time. You can say, well, my goal is this month I'm gonna focus on this, and the next month I'm gonna focus on this, and the next month I'll focus on that. And the next thing you know, you got your life together. And when you get your life together, God, God says, well, you're responsible with this. I'm gonna give you more. And
Yeah.
then He shifts you to the place that He's been prepared you for that whole time in that transition.
And I saw like a video where you talked about intentionally resting, and it's like it's okay to rest, especially for busybodies, which I learned.
Yeah, because you have to. That's what I said. Like on Wednesdays, and I still kind of do that. Like I don't like on Wednesdays. I'll sit there and I'll catch up on TV shows, and I'll just be chill. Be chill. Like you just need a rest day. And even though, you know, um, you should have restful moments, but you definitely should find rest. And then rest doesn't always mean I'm stopping. I'm doing nothing, because rest can be a state of mind where you're not anxious. Oh God, when you gonna do this? Oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen next. Like you just have to just chill, get
So
that mind under control,
peace.
get peace, get that mind under control, get that heart rested, get that just peace. God got you.
I want to know, like, as a coach, like, what are the results you hope for when empowering women to be the best versions of themselves?
I want to get people out of survival mode. Because survival mode says, oh, I gotta hurry and do this, I gotta do this. But you know, when you're thriving, it's like I'm intentional. Like I'm specifically making sure that I'm not just doing anything just cause. Like everything that they do, it's because I'm supposed to do it, right? That's the job I'm supposed to have. If I don't like that job, go get another one, right? Don't be stressing out for people. Like I've helped people realize, like, why are you working for these people when you can just be working on your for yourself? Or so basically it's just helping, making sure that people come out of that transition, like I stated earlier, come out of that transition, come from out of out of survival mode and come into thriving. But the realness is being in alignment with God, being in alignment with him, his heart, his will for your life. um the tugging, and he's saying, do this, the obedience, the surrender. So that's like what I really like. That's what I'm shifting people into, because while we run around like chicken with no head, just doing a whole bunch of dumb stuff, like that makes no sense. So everything that I do is intentional. Like the place that I work, where what I do, like I'm an educator, so I can go sit in front of a principal and they'll hire me on the spot because I'm in alignment with God, right? I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So I tell people, like, just because there's an opportunity doesn't mean it's God. It could be good, but it's not God. But that's why you have to be prayerful and say, okay, if is this what I'm supposed to do? Are these the friends that I'm supposed to have? Is this, those types of things. So that's what I get people to prioritize and make sure they're out of that survival mode where, you're just stressed. You've been in this, you don't know the answers, you've just been inundated with a whole bunch of crazy stuff when you really just need to pay attention and be a good steward of your life.
So that actually answers my next question. How do you know the difference between a person is like thriving and surviving? And
Simply because they're in alignment with God. They're in that grace. They're not in that burnout. They're not in that stressful mode. They're actually prioritizing and being a good steward over the things that God has given them, right? That's how you know. You're not just doing a whole bunch of stuff and stretching yourself to everybody and everything and not taking care of yourself. And so, it differs from people to people, right? Um, so it just depends on the people. It depends on what's going on with their life. If you're in a bad relationship, baby, what you there for?
yeah,
I love him. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. But he beat you upside your head. Or he don't, he whatever. I'm just saying, just general stuff. So that's survival mode. Like you feeling like this is the only option. There's no other way. This is the only thing I'm doing. I'm drowning. You're in survival mode. You got to get up out of there, make a decision, make a plan, and shift to where you need to be. And that could just be across the board. It doesn't matter what it is. Because the principles that I give for the reset, it can be in anything. First of all, you understand what is it that you want to reset, right? You become intentional, and then you figure out you're going to prioritize, and then you have to set up a plan for each thing that you're going to prioritize. And even when you start doing that, you're thriving because you're paying attention and you're being intentional about what you need to be doing, what you need to be doing.
yeah. I feel like so many people, especially my age and people I've known in college, they dealt with like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So I was gonna know, like, why do you believe so many people struggle with imposter syndrome when opportunities are presented, and especially with people who have like many talents and gifts and stuff?
It's an identity issue. You don't really know who you are. You don't really know what you bring to the table. Imposter syndrome stems from rejection and abandonment. So a lot of people, if you were ever rejected by anybody, which we probably all have, and you have not gone over that or through that, a lot of times people are like, well, that's too big for me, right? It can come from insecurities. It can come from lack of faith, right? It can also come from what I call self-sabotage. You don't ever think good about yourself. You don't ever like God made you. He put you here for a reason. You have to know who you are, you have to know whose you are, and you have to know why you're here. And a lot of times younger people have that they may struggle with that because they're still discovering who they are. So the opposite of that imposter syndrome will be self-discovery. Like you have to know your talents, your gifts, your treasures, and know that most people are looking for you. You looking for a job, but people really need you, right? And it's a perspective change. It's a mindset change. Like you can't think that you're nothing. You're if you went through college, a lot of people drop out. A lot of people don't even go there intimidated by it. You go to college, you come out like, why not? Right? And I think a lot of times that people deal with imposter syndrome because they begin to compare themselves to other people.
Yeah.
And that's where the identity piece comes in because you're not like, we're all different. We're so different that we don't have the same DNA unless you're an identical twin. We don't have the same fingerprints. Like God, like we got billions of people in the world and nobody have the exact same fingerprint. So how unique you are. So if you're unique, even scientifically, that is gonna also help you. I mean, that kind of makes up your talents and your gifts. That's part of it, right? So comparison, why you compare yourself to somebody else? You're not gonna be them, then they can't be you, you can't be them. Their same life experiences, everything is just different. So you just become who you can become and don't compare yourself. And another thing is you can't worry about what people think of you.
Yeah, that's
Everybody is always gonna have an opinion. And you listen to wise counsel as young people, you listen to your parents, but at the end of the day, you have to make your own decision. You listen to people who have gone through those experiences. I'm not saying don't, but I'm talking about like your peers. They always gonna have something to say.
yeah.
And and it's usually the people who's talking who don't really matter.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like they don't really matter. And I say that lightly. And that's why I'm doing like this. Like they don't really matter. They're not really there for you. They're not. And so you can't worry about what people say because at the end of the day, you have to please God, and He's gonna hold you accountable. Did you obey what I said? Did you
Yeah.
do it?
Because
And listening to my no,
them
no.
not gonna be with you standing in front
Uh,
when
and then you don't obey. You keep yourself right where you are, and you don't ever progress. And then you're in rebellion, and that's a whole nother. You telling God, you don't know what you're talking about. Who are you to tell God He don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah. I understand it now, but now I get confused because people was like, oh, I've been telling God no for like 4 years. And I'd be like, how did you survive a month?
The mercy of God. The mercy of God. Yeah. People tell God no all the time. You
Yeah.
know. So he's used to that. He ain't caught off guard. He already knows what you're gonna say before you say it. So yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he doesn't give you enough instruction until he tells
That
you
part.
you follow the instruction he's giving you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so just do it. Don't worry about it. I think another thing that helps with the imposter syndrome is that we sit there and we think about what we need to do too long. Right? So if God gives you an instruction, he'll show you Z, he'll show you the end, and then he'll bring you all the way back to A and say, do this part, step one. And we'll be like, what about step 2, 3, 4, 5? And we sit there, we think about it. No, just do this first step. And then he'll give you the second and probably maybe give you the third and the fourth. And so we sit there and we think about it too long instead of just obeying quickly. If we obey quickly, we don't have time for self-doubt, self-fear, fear, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage. We don't have time for that because we'll just do it.
Yeah. And our focus can be off sometimes, especially when we're like delaying obedience. And then we think about like, oh, God said this was coming, but your results depend on how quickly you obey it sometimes.
That's it. Because faith without works is dead. And it's like I tell people all the time, I could live on 12th Street and I have a package for you on 12th Street. But you keep going to 11th Street to get the package. You'll never get the package. And I'm on 12th Street waiting for you. Right?
Yeah.
Why are you at 11th Street? I told you to come to 12th Street. And so you'd be like, but God didn't do it for me. Yeah, he did. You ain't listen. You've been telling God no for 4 months or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I was, yeah. All right. So like I wanted to know like we talked about like thriving and surviving and I've been on this subject a little bit like as a visionary like how did you well I'm gonna ask this for like what's the difference between settling for less and being grateful for the season God has placed you?
Ooh, ooh, I like that. So, everything is a process, right? Because you have to know which season you're in, right? So if you're in a season that you know you're in transition, then you're grateful for what God is doing, right? You don't settle there. And the same time, you prepare for where you're going, intentionally prepare for where you're going. But then you know that you don't, this is not the end, right? And then you have the faith to believe God that I gotta, something else is coming, right? But in the same time, you're grateful because you could just tell God, I'm grateful. I'm thank you for where I am, but you showed me this. And so I believe that's where you're taking me. And I'm also preparing for where you're taking me. So you don't stay as a resetter, child. I don't stay nowhere long. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, it depends on the season of what's going on, but I'm just joking. It seems like it sometimes, but you just have to make sure that you're grateful regardless. And you have to have vision of where, in order for you not to settle, you have to have vision on what's next because there's always something next. God is a progressive God. So even if let's just say, for instance, I've been an educator for 23 years, right? I always knew that I wasn't going to stay in the classroom forever, but I stayed in the classroom for 20 years. But my journey looked different. I started off in high school, then I went all the way to elementary, then I came back to middle school, right? And then I left the classroom and became a director at Grambling. I'm still an educator. My purpose stayed the same. My calling stayed the same. My skill set, all that is the same. It just looked different. But eventually I couldn't settle because I just knew in my spirit, okay, maybe I need to stop teaching high school. Let me try something different. Right. And so I'm grateful. I was grateful the whole time. But then now I'm an educational consultant coach. So now I go into the schools and I help. I always knew that I would be that, right? And I never settled for being in the classroom. I knew that I needed to be there for a while, but I never settled. I always knew there was something different. And then that's when alignment comes in. That's when, you stay prayerful. God, show me the next and how do I prepare? And knowing the timing of when it is for you not to settle, right? And when those opportunities come, you gotta be like, oh, is that God or is that good?
Mhm.
Sometimes good opportunities will come. And sometimes opportunities will come and it's not the right timing.
Yeah,
So you just have to be like, you gotta just be, I mean, if you're a believer, you just gotta be prayerful.
yeah, that's good. And I ain't gonna lie, I stayed in Mr. Jakeithia office during grandma.
You did. And
I
that was okay.
was like, let me see what Mr. Jakeithia doing.
That's okay. So tell everybody I was your babysitter. Remember, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a visionary, like, how did you know to go through with the idea of reset? Like, what was that confirmation you received to execute this?
So it was God was already dealing with me, right? I'm a very prayerful person. I pray every day. And God was just dealing with me. And then when COVID hit, when we walked out of the building, I was like, I gotta write this book. And then COVID hit in March, but in November or December before, I was having a conversation with somebody and it just hit me. Like it hit me again. Like I hadn't even like the idea came back to me. And I hadn't thought about the reset like that intentionally in a while. And the idea came back to me and it just wouldn't it's like it's on you. It's like a coat that's on you. You feel it. It's like it's you think about it all the time. It's in your spirit. You see it everywhere. And I'm like, something's coming. And I didn't know what was going on. So I made a t-shirt. I just started jumping out, like made t-shirts, started posting those ideas about reset, just thoughts and stuff. I took, I made shirts. I did a photo thing like in February. I took like photos and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna do something with this. And then when I got out of that day when school ended, I was like, I gotta write this book because I had nothing but time.
Yeah.
That's when it took me 2 years to write that book. Because and then what was so good about it was we were literally in a reset, the whole world.
Yeah.
So it was like perfect timing. And so I released the book like May of 2022. So it was like, yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah.
So again, he won't let you sleep. It'll be all over you. It'll be on you. You won't be able to rest until you do something with it. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you
This is very true. He won't let you forget it or nothing.
go. And so every time I would get an idea, I would just write it down and and then you gotta know when to execute it.
Like in your book, what was the hardest chapter to write?
Probably the first, because I didn't know how to necessarily get started. And yeah, the first, because you want to like grab the attention of the reader. Because like what you say in the beginning, like I don't know, or this book, and people may throw it to the side, which is fine. But I want to say the first one, and the first and the last one. The last one is always, I don't know, because you like it's almost like you think you're done, and then you give it to somebody else, and they be like, give me a little bit more. So yeah, the first and the last is usually the hardest.
So how you started and how to finish it
Yeah.
was hard. Some projects or like some updates you have to come up with.
So I have another book that I'm writing right now. It's part of the Reset series. And in May, I am going to do a reset cohort where I'm going to do 4 weeks of a cohort and just teach people how to reset. It's going to have a journal, it's going to be an investment. So I have that coming up. And my hope is that by the end of the year, sometime by the end of the year, I'll have a reset conference.
I would love to attend that conference.
Come on. And I don't want to tell all the details, but those are some things that are burning in my heart.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's what I didn't touch. So, yeah, how important is it to be intentional and to reset your life?
Man, all I could do is just go back to the scripture. Jesus said, if you are faithful over the little, I will make you ruler over much. Um, the Bible says our life is not our own. We're stewards of our life. We're stewards of everything, our car, our job, our money, children, everything. We're stewards of that. And so when you're a steward, it doesn't belong to you, right? And so I know for me, I want to make God proud, right? I want to be obedient, I want to listen. And so being intentional means that I'm specifically focused on this. And then it makes it, because the world is crazy right now.
Yes.
And so it gives you such a peace and such a joy of being intentional because you know that you got some kind of stability, some kind of discipline, some type of good stewardship, that you are being a good steward of what God entrusted you to. And then it's becomes exciting because it's like I get bored easily. I don't know about nobody else. I get bored easily. So it's like, okay, I'm doing this for a while. I'm like, oh, I need to do something else. And I have to be careful about that too, because sometimes it's like, okay, just chill for a minute, right? And that's that tag between do I settle or do I be grateful, right? But when God has shown you something more, then when you're being intentional, you get to do the more. You get to do the other things that He's calling you to do. And at the end of the day, intentionality is never just about you because now you can help other people. And that's what we're here for. We're not here to just me, myself, and me, my phone, no more. No, it's to help other people.
Yeah.
So I can't be the reset is not for Jakeithia. It's not just for Jakeithia. It's for anybody who needs to reset. I'm confident in that. As I've seen people's lives change. I've seen my life change because of that, of being intentional.
And I wanted to mention, like, because if you have like lack of identity and if you don't know the idea of stewarding something well, then it could be a problem of idolatry.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah. So I had to add that on because that just hit me in my brain for a minute. Yeah. So,
That's good.
no, like, is there any advice you could give to women who are struggling with imposter syndrome or just feels like they need to have everything in control all the time to like make something happen?
So who told you that you can't do it?
Yeah, that part.
Told you that. Like, even you can't even let past experiences, disappointments, like you almost kind of like wipe the slate clean and you have to start over. And so you who told you that? And then most of the times it's us telling ourselves, or maybe it's past voices, because some people didn't grow up in a good home, or they may not have had a good spouse, or they may not have had good friends who are, people be like, oh my God, y'all friends be da da da. I'm like, God, I thank you because I don't have them type of friends. I
Mm,
don't have hater friends. Well, if you're a hater, I don't need to be. You don't need to be my friend, right? I have great, supportive, loving friends. I'm so grateful for it. So, um, so I would say surround yourself with good people that'll tell you the truth, but that'll also encourage you. Like I got people that say, "Nah, Jakeithia, I don't think it is," and it's not because I know their hearts. They're not jealous. They're not being a hater, but they're just being honest with me, right? And they'd be like, and there's other times where I'll be like, "Girl, you got this." And so you need other people surrounding. So first you got to stop telling yourself, and then you got to surround yourself with positive people who are going to encourage you and help you along the way because we do need that. I don't care how strong or how visionary or how creative you are. You do need people to encourage you. So I would say that. And just get started today. Like make one, if you're listening to my voice, make one step towards something. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. Sit down for 5 or 10 minutes, even if it's just jotting down your plans. Because a lot of times we have ideas and we don't even write them down. We keep them right here. It's something so powerful about not even typing it out, but actually writing it out. My therapist taught me this, like writing it out. Because most of the time I have a little journal app in my phone and I'm typing. But when I begin to like really write out, it's such a release and you release it and you rest about it and it makes sense and you don't have to have it all together. You're human. It's okay. But if you be intentional and prioritize, you could at least have something together. Okay. That's how I look at it. So
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are like some characteristics that you can say to have in a good friend group? Because you mentioned like having a small circle and the people that are around you and wise counsel. Like, what are some good qualities?
Of good people.
Yeah.
You gotta have people who gonna tell you the truth and know your heart. And know your heart and you know their heart. They're not what I call a yes person. A
Yeah.
yes person be like, girl, yes, 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 you can do that. That's okay. To do that. And then even when you're wrong, they don't tell you you're wrong, or they don't tell you you're thinking wrong, or they don't tell you, girl, don't do that. You crazy, right? You need those type of people who will be truth tellers. You need those type of people who love you, who have your best interests in mind. And then when you see that there are people who don't, you create a boundary. You don't have to be ugly. You create a boundary. And then another thing is that I have certain people in my life for certain things. And what I mean by that, let me give you an example. My two best friends, one's a counselor, one's an entrepreneur. The person that's a counselor, I could dump on her and tell her everything. No judgment, judge free zone, right? My best friend that's an entrepreneur, if I dump on her, she's going to be anxious. She's going to be worried about me. It's not going to work for her. But if I need any kind of business ideas or any kind of creative stuff or any kind of visionary, I'm gonna call her and do, and she gonna be like, "Girl, you didn't do this. I don't even know why you didn't do this yet. Why you not doing this yet? Girl, you should have been done this." That type of thing. So you have to surround yourself with people that, and then she'll still say, Jay, I wouldn't do that. But then at the end of the day, you still take that wise counsel and you always bring it back to the Lord. If it's like a major decision, and for me, like major decisions, I ask God first, and then if I still like, then you surround yourself with wise people, and I'll look at people. I look at their track record.
Right.
I'm gonna go and talk to somebody who's writing a book, and I'm on number 4 because they don't know,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna go to a person who, girl, I need some help with my finances, and they're in debt. They got a car repossessed. They don't pay their mortgage. They got a bust down weave though, and their children look a mess. Like I'm not gonna go to you for financials. You see what I'm saying? Like like, and sometimes we just have a friend who's our friend, and we think that we can bring everything to them, and they're gonna give. No, let me see your track record.
Yeah, or we go to people who think like us. And
Right. And I don't need, that's good. I don't need nobody to think. I need another perspective. I definitely need another perspective because I only see this way and you may see another way, and then we can blend it together. Or however, I may just be like, yeah, you're right. And I'm gonna take that and run with it. So absolutely.
yeah. Well, this conversation helped me.
Good. It helped me too talking it out.
Wanted to say thank you for saying yes and being a guest as a creative. You can shout out where people can follow you and
Okay.
books, the name of them and stuff.
Okay. So you can follow me on Facebook, Reset with Jay, Instagram, Reset with Jay, TikTok, Reset with Jay. And you can go to resetwithjay.com. All my books are on there. My first book is Reset, Reevaluate Everything So Everything Thrives. That's what's about most of what I've talked about in this conversation, being intentional, prioritizing, thriving, coming out of survival mode. My second book was actually an anthology where I led 9 other authors and we talked about real life stories. And so that is on resetwithj.com. And then I have another book that I wrote with some other life coaches. And I, talked about my perspective about reset. And that is also on resetwithj.com. And book number 4 will be, I thought I was going to be finished with it, but I realized that I'm actually walking through this one and I'm right at the end. So I'm writing, but I can't release it until like this last thing that I know God's gonna do, and I'm just gonna boom. So yeah, so resetwithj.com and reset with J on all social media platforms.
Thank you so much for coming on here and speaking with
You're
me.
welcome. Thank you, Caitlin.
Follow me at Kate Talks Podcast, and my YouTube is Kate Talks Podcast, and I will be coming out with more interviews.